Here.
Diana Moore. Carmen Caliendo. Lori Benefort.
Here.
Allison Thomas.
Here.
Angela Johnson.
Here.
Susan Kennedy.
Here.
Thank you.
Lord, we ask your guidance today as we consider matters that will affect the safety and welfare of many people in our county. Help us to listen with open minds to matters that are important before us and to act on the matters that will benefit those who reside in our area. Keep our minds open and alert, our hearts compassionate, and our comments charitable. Amen.
The Zoning Commission of Palm Beach County has convened at 9 a.m. in the Vista Center, Ken Rogers Hearing Room, 2300 North Jog Road, West Palm Beach, Florida, to consider proposed applications and staff recommendations pursuant to the Palm Beach County Unified Land Development Code. The Commission takes final action regarding Class B conditional uses, subdivision variances, and Type 2 variances, and issues advisory recommendations on other requests. The Board of County Commissioners of Palm Beach County will conduct a public hearing at 301 North Olive Avenue, West Palm Beach, Florida, in the Jane M. Thompson Memorial Chambers, 6th floor, on applications not subject to Zoning Commission final action. Zoning hearings are quasi-judicial in nature and must be conducted to afford all parties due process. The Board of County Commissioners has adopted procedures for conduct of quasi-judicial hearings to govern the conduct of such proceedings. The procedures include the following. Any communication with commissioners which occurs outside the public hearing must be fully disclosed at the hearing. Applicants and persons attending the hearing may question commissioners regarding their disclosures. Such questions shall be limited solely to the disclosures made at the hearing or the written communications made a part of the record at the hearing. Any person representing a group or organization must provide documentation that the person representing the group has the actual authority to do so regarding the matter before the commission. Any person who wishes to speak at the hearing will be sworn in and may be subject to cross-examination. The applicant and county staff may cross-examine witnesses. Any other persons attending the hearing may submit cross-examination questions, including follow-up questions, to the chair, who will conduct the examination. The scope of cross-examination is limited to the facts alleged by the witness in relation to the application. Public comment is encouraged, and all relevant information should be presented to the commission in order that a fair and appropriate decision can be made. Do we have proof of publication?
Motion to receive and file.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, swearing in.
All those wishing to testify or speak on today's quasi-judicial items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Okay, we need approval of the January minutes.
Motion to approve the January minutes.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Amendments to the agenda, add, deletes.
Yes, we have a few modifications to the agenda. For item number 1, PDD 2025-00750, Falls PUD, modifying the staff report to include, that's contained in the attachments, a preliminary master plan for an alternative civic designation as Exhibit E11, the school board SCAD letter for Exhibit E12, and in Exhibit F, correspondence that we've received to date. we're proposing to modify the staff report Exhibit B under the standards, analysis, and findings to correct errors in the adequate public facilities for schools, referencing that SCAD letter. And it should be a maximum of 800 residential units, not 838. To amend and modify the plan development conditions of approval in Exhibit C to correct the architectural condition from 40 feet to 42 feet. Engineering condition 4 has some added language, and then the removal of engineering condition 5, and of course the conditions would be renumbered accordingly. Just as a point, we're also working with the applicant on landscape condition for that project as well.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
I'll second the motion to adopt the agenda with the add delete sheet.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, any conflicts or recusals today, starting on my left?
No conflicts.
No conflicts.
None.
I have none.
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 Okay. We have no postponements or withdrawals. Okay.
And we have
No
no items on
consent?
consent. Yep.
Consent, wow.
So regular agenda.
Yes.
We're
So
going to start with item 1. We need to start with disclosures.
yes.
Starting on my left, any disclosures?
Any disclosures?
Oh, none.
No disclosures.
I spoke to Kevin Rattery.
And I had a phone conversation with Jeff Brophy about the subject.
So I had a conversation with Jeff.
None.
None for me.
All right, we're ready to start item 1 then.
So PDD 2025-00750 Falls PUD. The request before the board is an official zoning map amendment to allow a rezoning from the commercial recreation zoning district to the planned unit development district on 167.82 acres. And we can turn it over to the applicant, followed by staff presentations.
All right, you may begin.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Zoning Commission. For the record, my name is Kevin Rattery, Vice President of GL Homes, 1600 Sawgrass Corporate Parkway, Sunrise, Florida, 33323. As Wendy indicated, the matter before you is the Falls PUD. This is a golf course conversion, so sometimes golf course conversions get a little bumpy.
Kevin, can you speak up a bit?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That's better.
I've never been told not to speak louder, so that's a first for me. So, all right, thank you. So this is a golf course conversion. Golf course conversions can get a little bumpy at times, and we've been meeting diligently with our neighbors, trying to work through the various issues. For the board's benefit, for those of you that haven't been here when a golf course conversion goes through, there are generally 2 types of golf course conversions. There are what I call the intertwined golf course conversions, which are when the golf course is part of a development order for a larger project, where it's part of the recreation amenity and or the open space of the development. Famous examples of that are the old Boca del Mar golf course and the Polo Trace golf course. The second type, which is the type that's before you today, is what I refer to as a freestanding golf course. And that is a golf course that was approved in its own development order. It was not part of a residential PUD. It was not intertwined in that development order. So let's talk about the location of the site. The Falls PUD is located basically at the northwest corner of Hypoluxo, Jog, and Hagen Ranch along its east property line. At the very corner, you'll see a little triangular notch out. That is a Cumberland Farms gas station that was built some years ago. It was originally part of the golf course. The golf course sold off the corner. But to be clear, the proposal before you today and the Cumberland Farms are not part of the same development order. They will be 2 separate development orders, but they do share a point of common access, which I will get into. To the east of us is Winston Trails, approximately 1,899 homes. To the north of us, directly north, and the only development sharing a common border with us is Journey's End, which is part of the old Smith Farms PUD development order. Across Hagen Ranch Road to our west is Lakeview Estates community, and in the red, farther west than that, also part of the Smith Farms development order, is a community known as Smith Farms. The important part of this slide and the important part of my presentation relates to land use potential of the property. The Falls PUD has a land use designation of CR, Commercial Recreation, /5, which means the land use designation is Commercial Recreation or MR5. The comp plan policies and the future land use element establish that the alternative designation reads as an and or. The commercial recreation land use was what was used to zone and entitle and build the golf course. The MR5 is the land use that we are utilizing to convert the golf course to a residential development. It is the same residential land use designation that our neighbors to the north and our neighbors to the west have, which is MR5, and I'll talk about densities here in a second. To the south of us, this is a little different scale, so blown up a little bit. Directly at the corner is a Winn-Dixie anchored shopping plaza. To the west of that is Manatee Elementary School, and to the west of that is a Lake Charleston Park. Now I'm not going to answer the proverbial question of what came first, the chicken and the egg, but I am going to answer the question as to what came first, the golf course or the adjacent residential developments. This is an aerial from 1986. Bounded in red is the golf course. As you can see, the golf course had not started construction. The land to the north, the land to the west, a little harder to read, the land to the east, the next aerial will show that a little better, was also undeveloped. In 1993, you can see that the golf course between the last aerial and now has fully built out. The clubhouse is in place. The holes are in place. The golf course is open. To our east, across Jog Road, you will see the beginning of Winston Trails starting to develop. The golf course, the residential homes are coming along. This is an aerial from 1999. Again, you will see the homes to the west and Lakeview Estates across Hagen Ranch Road have started to come in, and Journey's End to our north have started to come in. So what's before you is a straight rezoning. We are not asking for a land use plan amendment to change the land use designation. We are utilizing the existing adopted future land use designation of MR5. We are not requesting any variances attributable to this project. The only waiver that is involved, which I will talk about when I get into the plan a little bit more, is an administrative waiver that's not even approved by this board or by the zoning or by the Board of County Commissioners. It relates to an internal recreation pod. We are not asking, and this is very important, we are not asking for any density bonuses under the county's workforce housing program. We are asking for 800 units, 500 of which will be single-family detached zero lot line, and 300 will be multifamily rentals. What created a lot of the initial controversy of this project, which was a proposal for a 6-story tall rental building as part of the project, we have been working with the county and working with our neighbors to try to come up with a plan that is more suitable and supportive of our neighbors. So let's talk about density for a second. I brought up the MR5. Well, simply put, as a PUD rezone, you take the acreage, 167.82, times 5 units per acre, which is the PUD density of MR5. You are permitted a total of 838 units without utilizing any density bonuses. Again, for the record, our request is 800 units, so we are 38 units shy of even what the land use potential of this property applies. Under the county's workforce housing program, there are 2 density bonuses that apply, a limited density and a full density bonus incentive. A limited density incentive allows you to increase your PUD maximum density by up to 50%. Some people use the phrase that that's by right. I'm not really I'm not really of the opinion that's really a by right, because you still need Board of County Commission approval of your development order. But if we were to ask for the limited density bonus incentive, that would allow us up to 1,257 homes, which is 419 more than what we're asking for in the PUD. And under the full density incentive, where you get a 100% density bonus, that's 5 units per acre at 100% is now 10 units an acre. This property could achieve a density of 1,676 units, or 838 units more than we're requesting, without seeking a land use plan change. Again, we are asking for 800 units. This is the preliminary master plan that's part of your packet. I'm going to walk you through the pieces. In the yellow, by the way, I'm partially colorblind, so if I say a color and it's really not the color, just bear with me for a second. So, in the yellow are the single-family zero-lot line residential pods that total 500 units. There are 4 pods, A, B, C, and D. The primary access point for the development and the main entry will be on Jog Road. That will be a gated, secured entry, and that will be a full median entry by condition of approval. Left in, left out, right in, right out. In addition to that, we have a condition of approval that requires us to fund the cost of signalization in the event that the county determines it to be warranted. The secondary access for the yellow residential pods is on the west side of the project, Hagen Ranch Road. That will be a resident-only entry. It will be secured by gates, and it'll be a card reader entry. The rec pod serving the yellow, or the 500 residential developments, is shown in blue. It will be the recreation amenities for just everything shown in yellow. And when I brought up the waiver earlier, we traditionally flank our recreation pods with water retention areas. So the waiver allows us to not do the buffer between the recreation pod and the adjoining residential pod, because there's something intervening. And we do that. The reason the buffer requirement's in there is if you have a residential lot right next to a recreation pod, you wanted to have a buffer in there. When you have a lake intervening, we've always designed our communities with the lake surrounding the recreation area. We get a waiver from that. Again, it's an administrative waiver. It's not before you. Pod E, and this is the part that got controversial and was really the subject of most of the heated debate of the project. Again, with 800 units, 500 of which were the yellow single-family zero-lot line, we had 300 potential units. We proposed those 300 units in the form of a 6-story tall rental apartment building. Its access is from Hypoluxo Road. There is an existing access which is signalized, which feeds the Cumberland Farms gas station at the corner. We have a ingress-egress easement that was part of the original sale of the Cumberland Farms that allowed us to utilize that signalized intersection, and we were proposing for the multifamily units to access the Hypoluxo Road signalized access. There would not be interconnectivity between the green and the yellow. The green had its own access, the yellow has its own access. Civic Pod, and this is going to be an important conversation primarily for the Board of County Commissioners. When we presented this proposal to Cobra, Cobra was expressing concern about the 6-story height of the multifamily rental building. And they inquired, and it was a fantastic idea, I will give them all the credit, was, is it possible that the county could declare the civic pod as, just lost the term in my head, surplus, thank you, whoever said that behind me, surplus property, which allows the developer to buy the civic site from the county and convert it to residential. It's been done over the years many times. The key question for surplus civic sites is always, has a county department identified a need or a service for that geographic area whereby they need that property for a public civic purpose? So when Cobra brought the concept forward of, well, is it possible that that be declared surplus, and to utilize that property for your POD development. And the simple way to do that is to take the Peach Civic Pod and flip it with the lake that's directly to the south of it. Move the lake to the south side of the primary entry, and that way the 3.36 acres would be next to the 12 acres, which is the multifamily pod. That would then allow us more land to take the 6-story building. We've designed it, we've looked at it, and we can take it down to a 4-story building. So part of this request now is to ask the board on February 26th, and it's their decision to make, to declare that 3.36 acres of civic area surplus property, and then we will buy that property. We've already bought it once. We're going to buy it again. We're going to buy that right out from the county. That'll allow us to take the 6-story building to the 4-story building. This is basically a conceptual site plan of what created the bubble plan. That's the preliminary master plan. As you can see, it's just simply the residential lots, the multifamily pod, the recreation pod, and then you see the civic pod. With the civic pod, if it were to stay a public civic site, we have to have direct access from an exterior arterial or collector road. So right now, we are showing an access from Jog Road into that public civic site. If it is declared surplus by the board, that access point will go away, and the access will be, again, from Hypoluxo Road, serving the multifamily. I'm going to talk about buffers for a second, but I want to key in on the north buffer, which again is where we share a common property line with Journey's End. Now, this graphic shows it as a 25 to 35-foot buffer with berm. I'm not going to get into all the details of what I'm about to tell you. I'm just going to tell you that we've been working very diligently with our neighbors next door, and their representative here is here to speak on behalf of them. But we've been working very diligently with them. The long story short is there are provisions in the code that allow private property owners to take setback reductions for their pools, for their screen enclosures, for their principal structures, if they are adjacent to open spaces 50 feet in width or greater. Setback reductions were allowed because the adjoining property was a golf course. If there is any less than 50 feet buffer, open space between their lot line and our lot line, it would make their lots, for anybody who did a setback reduction, non-conforming. So in order to avoid that situation, staff suggested a condition of approval requiring a 50-foot buffer along our north property line, 2,500 feet from the west side up to basically where it curves around to the entry of Journey's End. The fact is, our neighbor to the north, Journey's End, has a buffer tract within their PUD known as Tract C, which is already 10 feet. So the negotiation between our two communities was, we are okay giving up 40 feet with your 10 feet. That gives the total of 50 feet. So the benefits that have been derived by your community residents with the open space reduction would continue to apply, and they would not be made non-conforming. So we have committed to that. The only thing we got to work out is what happens at that bend when their homes turn north. 2,500 feet is much farther east, but we'll work it out between now and BCC as to the actual dimension that needs to be applied. But we have maintained between their buffer and our proposed buffer the 50 feet necessary to avoid anybody's existing improvements becoming non-conforming. Just by way of reference point in terms of distance, the multifamily rental building is approximately 1,900 feet from Journey's End and about 2,480 feet away from Lakeview Estates to our west, and 950 feet from the nearest home in Winston Trails. So I talked a little bit about the buffer width. Again, this was an old graphic because the discussion is centered around. But what we have agreed to with our neighbors to the north is that the wall, and we are not required to have a wall by code, but we are proposing a 6-foot panel wall, that we will build a berm and a 6-foot panel wall within our 40-foot buffer, and we will offset that wall to 15 feet off the property line. And then on their side, or the Journey's End side, we will put in 12 to 14 foot tall fish fishtail palms, and a trinette hedge. It is a very thick type of palm tree. It is a quick grower. It doesn't have some of the issues that we have with areca palms and some types of diseases that get into them. And so we've worked really hard to try to work it out, and they can speak for themselves as to the agreement on that. But the long story short is we have come to an agreement on what the berm is going to be. In the berm section, we just have to finalize the final length. That's a fishtail palm on your right. For those of you that drive the turnpike on a daily basis, when you drive by the Lotus community, which is south of Bridges and south of Meisner Country Club, there are fishtail palms on the exterior side of that on the turnpike side. So it's a very thick growing palm. We're using it a lot these days because it grows pretty quickly, it stays green, it's easier to maintain, and there are known pests. Hagen Ranch Road buffer, again, it's a thick buffer that we do along our roadways, but just to give you an idea, these are far, far, far in excess of what code requirements are. I talked a little bit about access already, so I'm not going to spend time on this graphic. The original layout of the 6-story building was what we called a wrap design. Because the site is 12 acres, it would necessitate the use of a parking garage versus at-grade parking. The building itself is one building. The wrap design occurs where the parking structure, which is the brown or light brown color, is wrapped by the residential unit. So you don't actually see the parking structure itself because the residential developments wrap it. Residential units wrap it. These are the internal buffers that are being provided. Obviously, these are between our future residents and the multifamily residential development. The rec area, again, is going to be provided on site for the multifamily rental units, consisting of pool and outdoor activity areas. We have a variety of units, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because it's really just understanding the nature of it, but we have 1 bedroom, multiple 2-bedroom options, and a 3-bedroom option. Let's talk about height for a second. Again, I've already committed that the board, if the board approves the cash out of the civic site of surplus property, we'll take it to 4 stories. But height is measured to 35 feet. But the code then provides an exception to that that says for every additional foot of building height, you have to provide an additional foot of setback along all of your setbacks. So either the 6-story building or the 4-story building would meet the setback requirement under this provision. And this is just a graphic to show you. In the front, it would be a total of 204 feet, side 73, rear 203. So this is the rendering of the 4-story building. The 6-story building was basically the same accommodation, but up to 6 stories. The taller element you see in the center would be the primary entry, the leasing office. The ground floor on the front would be amenity areas, your workout rooms, your storage rooms, your craft rooms, those types of things. But as you can see, we've spent a considerable amount of time and effort looking at this building. But the garage is right behind that facade, so you cannot see the garage. The entry to the garage is just to the left of this graphic, and it would be some type of secured entry to the garage area itself. We have provided some at-grade parking in the front, which is designed for people that are coming to the leasing office, or for, we have an area for the Uber drop-offs, and we also have a bus pavilion for school buses to be able to get in and out. This is the view looking from what would be the primary entry of the development to the southwest towards it. Again, northwest corner and southeast corner. So from a scale standpoint, there's quite a bit of difference between the 6-story and the 4-story. So again, I think that was something, it was a great idea by Cobra. So procedurally what will happen, we've worked it out with PREM as to what the value of the civic site is. It will just be up to the board to decide on the 26th of February, if this proceeds forward from today's hearing, to make a decision on the surplus property. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about schools. I'll do it in rebuttal. But just from a code standpoint, the level of service standard from schools is, does the school system have capacity in its elementary, middle, and high schools? It's not based on the immediate assigned schools. It's based on what's the capacity of the immediate assigned schools. If they're over capacity, what's the capacity of the next schools, and so forth and so on. The school district has capacity. They've lost 6,000 students last year alone. But the key line here is the bottom line in this letter, that's, and this is a SCAD letter issued by the school district for all elementary, middle, and high assigned schools. There will be no negative impact on the school district or the assigned schools. This has been a major point of contention, major point of friction with some of the neighbors, the concern about the impact of this development on the schools. This takes into account our projected students with the capacities. The last thing I'm going to mention, and again, this is a board issue, there is a glitch in the code. We have a workforce housing requirement with this project. It's 27 workforce housing units because we are utilizing standard and PUD density. The workforce housing program has a requirement. This glitch caused us to originally ask for the application to utilize the exchange, where we pay a workforce housing builder to build the units off-site, was our original proposal because of this code requirement. That multifamily building is one building, which means it's one permit. So by way of example, if I was here just on the multifamily building, you've got a code standard that says when I get to 50% of my building permit issued, I have to have 50% of my workforce housing units built. Well, if I'm building one building with 300 permits in it, when I pull the first permit, I'm at 100% permits issued. And obviously, I just got my permit, so I can't be COing the unit because the building's not even built. So part of the request before the board will be get direction. We got to fix this glitch in the code from a timing, and what GL has committed to do is if the glitch is fixed, we will go from the exchange to build the workforce housing units on site in the rental project. Just quickly, I want to go through the standards. There are 7 standards in the code on a rezoning as confirmed by your staff. In the staff report, which is part of your public record, and our application, we are consistent and have been determined to be consistent with all 7. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will shut up and let it go to staff. Thank you.
All right, staff.
Would you like a presentation from staff?
What's the
I don't think we
will
need
of the
it.
board? Do we a presentation from staff?
Okay.
Okay, let's go with questions then.
Let me turn that on. In the staff report under compatibility with surrounding uses is where my question is. The staff statement is that the compatibility is generally compatible with surrounding uses on page 19, but 10, by the way. And that the surrounding land uses are, the approved surrounding uses are up to 5 acres, 5 units per acre in density. Was there any kind of analysis as to what the actual density is of the surrounding uses by either staff or the applicant?
I'll have Joyce come up.
What page?
It's page 10, under compatibility with surrounding uses. On their second paragraph, it says to the north and west is Smith Dairy, and the east is Winston Trails. Existing residential developments were approved with a density of up to 5 units per acre. And I was just wondering if anyone had looked at what the actual density was of the surrounding uses.
We did. I did. However, I don't have that record here with me. But we normally look at what was previously approved, the density, the number of units, and then we come to our analysis.
So in short, yes, we did look at it,
Okay.
and it's consistent.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, that's it. So at this point, we have some cards to go through from the public.
Yes, and we have 2 lecterns, so I'm going to call 2 at a time. One person can take one and then the other, and then please state your address. You have 3 minutes. Joshua Leroy, to one side and Laura York to the other. Please state your name and your address.
Sure. Joshua Leroy. I live at 6500 Kirsten Way. I'm here as the association president of Smith Farm Dairy East. I have a letter from our division, from our association attorney. Do I enter that as evidence?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll call that Exhibit A, Exhibit 1. So I'm here as the on behalf of the board of directors this morning for Smith Farm Dairy East. We are the property bordering the proposed site of the falls directly north, more commonly referred to as Journey's End. We're here today to support the approval of the rezoning request that GL is making, that being 500 attached single-family homes and 300 multifamily rental units. Obviously rezone it to the residential from the commercial. We support GL being permitted to buy out the civic site, the 3.36 acres, and also the 4-story apartment building that they're projecting or proposing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could Jocelyn Harris Fitzroy come up to the lectern? Go ahead.
My name is Laura York. I am the president of the Winston Trails Foundation. I have a letter of support from the board allowing me to represent Winston Trails Foundation. My address is 5138 Prairie Dunes Village Circle in Lake Worth. We as a community and the foundation are in favor and support of the PUD project for the 500 single-family homes, the 300 rental, and the civic center of availability to be purchased, and at the 4-story, which I understand will be at 42 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could you enter the letter you have up here?
And Barbara Roth.
Okay. My name is Jocelyn Harris Fitzroy. I'm just representing myself. I am a resident of Journey's End and an original homeowner there, been there for 26 years. And when I selected that property site...
Excuse me, just your address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. My address is 6885 Fenimore Circle. And I've lived there for the past 26 years, and I selected that property site because it backed up into the falls, and it gave me the quiet enjoyment of that area, which I will, of course, no longer have with this huge undertaking that's going on. My property directly backs up to that site. And I feel that I'm opposed to it. I heard what our other representatives from Journey's End said, but I'm opposed to it. I feel that the impact it'll have to the traffic, even whether it's 6 stories, 4 stories, there's still 300 units that are going to go there, coupled with the other 500 single lot line homes. And it will present considerable problems to the already congested corridor along Jog Road. And even if they put in turning lanes or what have you, it's still going to be just that. A lot of people trying to get into that development in and out. I also want to say that with regard to, I didn't hear anything about drainage or anything like that, but we've been told that there'll be like a 2-foot berm. And my property is here and with a 2-foot berm, and you've got those homes built on it. I'm concerned about the stormwater drainage. Already, when it rains considerably, I have standing water in places, and when you have that many homes there and that huge development, the runoff there, I'm concerned about what will transpire there. I feel like my property could readily and easily flood. I could go on about several other things that concern me, but I think I'll pretty much leave it at that. I'm opposed to it, and I feel that the application should be denied. Oh, one other thing. There's a huge row of areca palms that they mentioned. Those areca palms line the entire northern area of that property, which is which my property butts up against. and those areca palms do provide a buffer between the properties. They're 30 feet tall, and if they put in a 6-foot wall and a 12-foot fishtail palms, I don't think I'll live long enough to see them reach 30 feet to give the buffer that we currently have. And so the rest of that visual would obviously just be those homes, which could be upwards of 35 feet themselves. Anyway, so that's
Thank you.
all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, Zoning Commissioners. I'm Barbara Roth, President of COBRA. COBRA's been around for 45 years. This location is right in the middle of our 55 square miles of representation. The communities surrounding this area are members of COBRA, Winston Trails, Journey's End, Smith Farm. I'm glad that they've had the opportunity to review this as COBRA has. I'm gratified that we're able to support this proposal. When we were first shown the proposal at our Growth Management Committee meeting, it was at 6 stories, and that was just not going to be acceptable. The only thing COBRA has in its area of that height is the Bethesda West Hospital Baptist Health System, which COBRA supported out of a community need. Another community need has developed over the many years that I've been involved with COBRA, and that is a need for workforce housing. We have supported that and understand the imperative in the county to provide housing at more affordable prices, whether sometimes they're built on site or transferred to another location. The units are important for the county. For that reason, we suggested that and we understood that the setback would allow the developer to build to the initially requested height. At that point, we suggested that if the civic site could be cashed out and the height could be reduced, and we did not specify a height or a number of stories, we just wanted to see what the developer could do. We now see this proposal at 4 stories. We see the setback. We see the internal garage formation, and we are able to support it. So we understand the concerns of the neighbors. There has not been anything there of this height. There has not been anything there but a golf course. We knew there always would be something, and COBRA does support this proposal. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Okay. I have one card here that refuses to, does not wish to speak, but would like to comment. So I'm just going to read this one card from Jennifer Smith, 7546 Sally Lynn Lane, 33467. She is opposed, and it says, myself and our community are deeply opposed to the falls. School overcrowding, traffic congestion, and safety are major concerns. That's all for the public comment that I have.
Okay, any questions from commissioners?
I just have one. What is the requirement for the traffic signal light? Yeah.
For the record, again, Kevin Rattery with GL Homes. The traffic signal condition requires that within 24 months of the issuance of the final CO, so the 800th unit in this particular scenario, the county can determine that the signal is warranted, and at that point the developer is responsible for paying for the full cost of signalization at the entry. The reason it's set at 24 months after final CO is they like to do the county likes to do the warrants after the initial phases of construction are done, where you don't have all the construction traffic going on, and it's more of the pure development. It's the same condition of approval you get in any development order request that comes before you. They all read the same way, and it's designed specifically to make sure. We have to post surety for it. If the warrants are met, but the county does the warrant analysis, they notify us, we design it, we permit it, and then we install it. We actually like to have signals at our projects, even though they're getting to be quite pricey these days. We'd like to have signals at our projects.
What did the traffic study say to this county? You can answer that.
So this is a standard practice, 24 month. So it's for all type of signal warrant. This is very standard.
There's one thing I forgot to mention, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind.
Go ahead.
Let me make sure it's just on the record because it's one of the things that we discussed with our neighbor next door. When Smith Dairy was approved, the Journeys End community to our north was obligated to maintain the landscape median in Jog Road from Hypoluxo Road, which is south of us, to Lantana Road. So it's a long stretch of road. And Journeys End has been maintaining that, and they requested of us, would GL, or the developer in this particular case, be willing to do what's necessary to take over the maintenance of the median along your frontage, because effectively they're maintaining a median that's not even along their frontage. And the answer is yes. So I will work with engineering between now and BCC to get the condition of approval put into the Falls PUD development order. At that point, it'll be a condition in both of our development orders, and we'll just substitute out our maintenance agreement with the county with their maintenance agreement and take that over for them. Just wanted to make that on, put that on the record. Thank you.
And any further questions? Yes.
I have a quick water question.
Sure.
Just to address the neighbors' concerns on the potential water flow and berm. I know in your Lake Worth drainage statement, it's the berm's to be built for a 25-year, 3-day storm, which is about 10 or 12 inches of rain, I believe.
So, and I'm not an engineer, I'm just going to answer the question based on the way we've designed our communities and the way we've represented to Journeys End that we will design this community. Anytime that you build a berm in a perimeter buffer, you've got the situation where one side of that berm is directed towards the adjoining property. And so what developers typically do is they will put a swale right at the property line so that that water has a point of collection without discharging onto the adjoining property. We then in turn build drainage grates every so many lots and grade that swale so that the water will flow into those drainage grates, and then it will be pushed into our lake maintenance system, not their lake maintenance system. The county's Land Development Department, South Florida Water Management District, it's all regulated by them. Those engineering plans have to be approved. We have to show that we are not discharging water onto the adjoining property, and to the extent that the adjoining property has been discharging water onto us, we have to show how we can accommodate those flows as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything else?
I have a question for staff. So, as I understand it, the applicant currently, I guess, the property, the area is alternatively zoned MR5. Is that correct?
It's currently zoned commercial recreation.
All right, but there's a statement that it's an alternative MR5 zone.
So the zoning is commercial recreation, and the future land use has a commercial recreation future land use with an underlying 5 units per acre. So it has both a commercial recreation and a residential future land use.
All right. Would that allow the applicant to build up to basically 5 units per acre? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how does the area where the multi-story building is planned to be, how does that meet the requirements of MR5 with regards to density?
So as a whole, the planned unit development clusters density, but as a whole, it's meeting the 5 units per acre. It's actually building less than the 5 units per acre.
Okay, so is that allowable?
Yes, for a planned unit development.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're ready for a motion.
A motion to recommend approval, item 1A.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passed.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, moving on to item 2.
Yes.
Any,
Item 2 is a privately proposed revision to the Unified Land Development Code. Privately proposed revisions are done in 2 phases. So this is phase 1, where the applicant is seeking ultimately like an initiation. So this is a recommendation that you would provide to the board on whether or not to initiate that proposed amendment. So we will turn it over to the applicant so they can describe their proposed change.
let's start. Do we have any disclosures?
No disclosures on the amendment.
We don't need any disclosures? Okay. Or we have none. All right, go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Lauren McClellan with J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture. On behalf of the applicant, I'm presenting this privately initiated proposed ULC revision for fitness center uses within commerce and other industrial future land use designations. So this request is to increase the fitness center use within commerce industrial MUPDs from 20% to 35%. So the applicant for this application is the property owner and developer of BC Commerce MUPD. It's the Butters and Channing team. They've developed Malcolm Butters has developed several industrial projects, and then the Channing Group has developed multiple commercial and residential projects throughout the county, and then they came together and collaborated on this project, the BC Commerce Project. It is located on the north side of Boynton Beach Boulevard between Acme Dairy and the Florida Turnpike. And just to give a little bit of history for those of you that may not have been on the Zoning Commission in 2023 when this project originally received its approvals, the developers worked with the surrounding community. There's a couple different proposals for this site, but we worked with the community, Cobra and Bark. They're the neighborhood communities in the area to really understand what kind of uses that they wanted in this area and for this property. And at that time, the residents of the area really wanted some uses that they could bring their families to in addition to the light industrial uses for small businesses. So they really wanted uses for the family residents, for fitness and other similar activities. So this is just a close-up of the site plan that's approved, just so you kind of understand what this project is. So at that time, county staff, in 2023, county staff was creating a new commerce future land use category. And then also with that commerce future land use category, there were zoning code amendments in place to determine what uses were appropriate within a commerce MUPD. So together with the community, the applicant, and our office, we really worked with the county staff to create and modify the ULDC at that time to be consistent with the new commerce future land use category and the proposed development. Just to let you know, the comprehensive plan has language that states, in addition to industrial uses, commercial rec, including but not limited to tenants within industrial buildings, such as indoor sports, fitness, gymnastics, karate studios, and dance studios are allowable within industrial future land use designations. So the ULDC language specific for fitness centers was modified in 2023 based upon the proposed development plan submitted at the time and then this new commerce future land use designation language. A limitation on square footage was discussed and imposed at first. The first reading of the ULDC, which you'll see in your staff report, started with 50% of a total building square footage, and that was mainly because the staff didn't want to see like an LA Fitness develop because they saw that more as a commercial use. So then they were trying to figure out, as we were going through and developing our plan, building A, which is closest to the turnpike, in working with the developer, there was a user that really wanted all of that, a lot of that building. They already have signed an LOI with the developer. It's going to be a large indoor tennis facility, so they needed that space. And so again, so we went back and we looked at where we were with our square footage, and what we settled on was 20% of the total building square footage. So since that time that this language was adopted, the BC Commerce Project has commenced construction. If you've been out there, you see the buildings that are up. And they have had a lot of interest from fitness center uses. They have already signed tenant agreements with American Twisters. They're going in one of the buildings fronting along Boynton Beach Boulevard. There's an indoor pickleball facility that is also one of the other buildings fronting on Boynton Beach Boulevard. And then, like I said, there's an indoor tennis facility. So just to give you some color, in the bottom highlighting in yellow, you can see this is one simple text change, changing no more than 20% of the total square footage to 35%. So I think it's kind of important to understand why fitness uses are really interested in industrial spaces. You know, these uses often need like larger bays. They definitely need the taller ceilings. You know, for an example, American Twisters, which is a gymnastics place, they have the uneven bars and similar gym equipment. It's really hard to find other types of leasable space that can really accommodate the big expanses for the mats, for the beams, for the equipment, et cetera, with the high ceilings. So really industrial space really caters to these sorts of uses. Same thing with the indoor tennis, indoor pickleball. So then there's some other tenants that are looking to locate in here. Again, they have really interest in, a lot of interest from these fitness center uses. And these are the uses really that the neighbors and the residents want. Some of the other users that they're looking at are, you know, just for example, like a baseball skills facility, a soccer skills facility, those types of other uses. So just in summary, the request is a simple targeted 20% to 30% change in the code. The comprehensive plan framework really recognized fitness center uses when it was added to the comprehensive plan. This is phase one, which will allow for us to move forward and do the further analysis for phase two. And it will allow for this project to continue to really meet what the residents want. The future site plan amendment that will come later, the project will have to meet parking requirements, traffic requirements, et cetera. And then we have presented this project with the two communities, to BARC and then to COBRA. And the application, the request was received very well. I believe that COBRA representative is here to speak in support of the application. So we respectfully request initiation of this phase one of this application. If you have any questions, we are available after staff's presentation.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Staff presentation?
No.
I think we're ready.
Mr. Chair, I'm sure staff will clarify this, but although the presentation by the applicant focused on a specific location, this will be more broadly applicable to specific zoning designations, right?
Yes, that's correct. This would apply to any industrial site that has a EDC, which is Economic Development Center, industrial, or commerce, future land use designation.
Okay, one question.
How many, if you've analyzed, about how many areas of the county would this apply to? Do you have any rough idea? I mean, do most industrial have? I mean, the modern ones have.
Yeah, all the industrial has some kind of industrial EDC or commerce, future land use.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion to approval of phase one, initiation of phase two?
Okay, we have.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay.
Wait a second. We have public comments cards.
Oh.
So can we rescind that motion and listen to the public, please?
Why don't you listen to the public, and then if it changes your mind, you can reconsider?
Okay.
All right.
Barbara Roth to one lectern, Dagmar Bross to the other.
Dagmar's gone.
Barbara's. Hello? Hi.
Barbara's apologies. She had to run out into the hall and do a quick Zoom meeting, so she's not going to speak anyway. My name is Dagmar. I'm also a part of Cobra. I've been doing it for a really long time. But, you know, this is going to be pretty cool. How exciting to have little kids be able to go down the street and do their cheerleading, you know, practice and their gymnastics and their softball and stuff like that. We totally support this use. Get some kids off of some iPads maybe, and we hope you approve, as you've already done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Jim Knight, there.
Jim's in
Okay,
support? Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you.
That's
All right,
all.
so I guess we
We need to
Done our
revote it.
job.
we don't need to revote.
No.
All right, moving on to item 3. What do we need on item 3?
Okay, so we haven't done one of these in a while. And so I just wanted to bring back just kind of an update of last year and what has occurred, as well as give the board an opportunity if there's any questions as it relates to ethics overview. Do you need any type of update? We prepared the locations where you can go if there's any questions or concerns on any application that is presented before you, and what you need to do as it relates to disclosures or recusing yourself if you believe that there is any type of conflict. No?
None.
Okay.
I'll just say I think members of the board, as infrequently as it happened, have been very good about getting to us ahead of time, or the Commission on Ethics. So it seems like you all know what you're doing. But if you ever do have any questions, the sooner the better, so that we can run it by our ethics folks.
Okay. So another thing that we have included in the attachments is the standards for review. So as you are aware, all of the applications that we review not only need to be consistent with the comprehensive plan or consistent with the code, but each type of request has a different evaluation and the different standards. So we've included the different standards in the backup. So for example, the request that was before today had one request, which is a plan development rezoning, and there were 8 standards that are included in your backup that the applicant has to prepare and staff has to agree with for our recommendation, and ultimately a final decision. So the Board of County Commissioners have to review these standards just as you do. So if you want to recommend denial, the denial needs to be based on one of those standards. Now, what we're presenting is the information that we have in our professional opinion, but obviously at the hearing, a lot more information is presented, more competent, substantial evidence based on whatever the applicant presents, we present, and the public presents as well. And then you use that information to come to the conclusion for your recommendation and or final decision. So we've included those different standards in there just as a refresher if there's any questions on that as well, so you have it on hand. What else do we have? You will
And I'll
see.
just supplement that, since you brought up the competent substantial evidence, just the legal realm. So, and we've talked about this before, but when you do base your decisions, it has to be based on competent substantial evidence, which can't just be mere unsubstantiated opinions or public sentiment. There has to be something fact-based. If it's the professional judgment of an expert, things like that. So it's a higher threshold than simply whatever your opinion is. It has to be something that's on the record that meets that higher threshold of competent substantial evidence.
I have a question on that.
Okay.
Because we swear in the members of a neighborhood. We swear in the people who are making public comment. And if someone's testifying to the character of their neighborhood, why is that not competent substantial evidence?
I think if it's something that's fact-based, an example would be if part of your decision hinges on, I don't know, how wide a buffer is. And staff report says it's 25 feet, but somebody says, wait a minute, I measured it, it's 30 feet, you know? Like that would be potentially something that's fact-based. But if it's simply something that I don't believe this is appropriate, that's just an opinion. It's ultimately up to you as to whether you believe it meets that threshold. But there is a lot of case law that basically says it has to be something based on fact if it comes from a member of the public that doesn't have expertise or professional credentials for something.
Okay. I mean,
Again,
I
it
don't
is-
wanna argue about it, but I
yeah.
mean, if someone's in the community and they have pictures of their street, which is a dirt road, and a developer's coming in, that is going
Yeah,
to
if there's a
impact that.
picture, if there's a
That's-
picture, and you believe that goes towards one of the criteria, and you believe that that meets that higher threshold for showing that it's fact-based and it's substantial and it's competent, then you as the decision maker, make that decision in your own judgment. I just try to provide a little bit of context for it.
I just want to make sure that we understand that when the members of the public are presenting things, that is a version of competent, substantial evidence.
I can't speak to that in a broad, nebulous sense. It's really fact-based and specific to whatever's being presented.
Okay. Any other comments?
Okay, the next thing that we've also included is the role of the zoning commission, and in that the decision-making body and what they hear, what they consider, and I believe the zoning commission, the board terms, the terms you guys are appointed by the board, we try to relay to you when your term is coming up, and to that board member so that they can have it on the agenda to either reappoint or they select new. As part of the being a part of a board member, we expect attendance, although we know things come up. Three misses in a row, you will no longer be a board member, and we would be seeking direction from that appointer to reappoint. You also have to be here at least 2/3 of the meeting, so it might not be 3 in a row, but it's sporadic. So you have to make sure that you're in attendance for at least 2/3 of the meetings from January to December. Okay, so that's in there. Voting of chair and vice chair is annual, so next month we will be voting on chair and vice chair as well. Let's see, what else do we got? I also wanted to go over some brief numbers with you from this last year. So last year we had 73 applications that were presented from January to December before the board. 12 of those applications you made the final decision on, and then the remaining 69 went to the Board of County Commissioners. Of the 12 that you made the final decision on, 10 of them also had companion applications that run. So sometimes if you approve a variance, but it's contingent on a rezoning, they're heard together. So 73 applications were before the board, all different types, from amendments to development orders to rezonings, variances, subdivision variances. So we have that. Upcoming things for the year. So staff has a lot on their plate. We are working on finalizing a contract to have a new land management system. We use what we call e-planning, zoning, and building, EPZB, to do all of our database and reviews of applications. So we are currently under review of a proposed contract to modify that. We've also reviewed a contract to reorganize our Unified Land Development Code, which will be happening this year. So you will be seeing that code amendment to prepare probably towards the end of the year. We are working on a concierge service with administration that we're working through the details on that and testing it out in the upcoming months. What else? Application forms, pre-application reviews. We have a supplement 32 that has been finalized. We are also working with a contract with Civic Plus, formerly known as Muni Code, to get our Unified Land Development Code back in that realm as well. And then as of last year, we had the modifications to townhouses, Westgate regulations, reasonable accommodation, green market that were adopted last year. And we have several proposed revisions in process related to our accessory dwelling units, electric signage, commercial vehicle parking, grass parking, and Parks and Rec changes. So a lot going on in our realm. So I think that was it that I wanted to prepare for you, but if you have any questions, just giving you guys an overview.
Anything else from? Yes.
If I could just take a moment of privilege, I just wanted to congratulate Wendy Hernandez. She is now, and I don't know if I officially made the announcement to the Zoning Commission, but she is our zoning director.
Great.
And, so
Congratulations.
Well deserved.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess we are in adjournment.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.